Hey, Diane, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Brenda. I'm so excited about this. I've been excited all week.
Me too. I'm so excited because you and I both dabble in the world of manifesting. And some people call it intention setting, some people call it bringing into fruition the things that you like, but basically it's aligning your thoughts with what you want instead of what you don't want to create a life you love.
Exactly.
I
That's
love this.
exactly it. Yes, that's exactly it.
And so
hmm
you have some amazing stories. Do you want to just share a couple of it as we get started?
Sure. Well, people often ask how I got started in this, and I would say I got started in college. My philosophy professor, I will do anything to avoid math. And as a radio, TV, film major, I had the opportunity to take philosophy for 3 hours instead of math. So I was like, yippee! But I was extremely interested in all of the great philosophers. They were all fascinating to me. But one day he started talking about he could teach us how to manifest parking places on our very crowded college campus. And I was like, "Oh, get on with you," because it was a very crowded. It was hard to find parking near my dorm pretty much all the time. But he taught a couple of simple steps, and I started practicing it, and I got so good at it. Used to annoy the heck out of my roommate because she'd be parked a mile and a half away, and I would be like three places away from the front door of the dorm.
Mhm.
So that to me was very exciting, but because it felt like there's so much more in your world that's in your control than you thought. Not everything, of course. There are things that are not in our control, but there are more things than we thought that we have something to do with or we can frame or reframe. So that's one of them. Um, the one people ask me the most about these days is I got married for the first time at the age of 58. Most people will tell you that's too old and it can't happen. This was one of those things that I wanted to manifest for myself for quite a while, and it just wasn't happening right. And I mean, I could tell you some of the reasons. One of them is I got in my own way a lot. And the other thing is the man I married wasn't available at the time. And then he was. So we met on Craigslist, of all things. And the New York Times did a story about it, which came out like 10 minutes before I walked down the aisle. That was kind of exciting. And I'm a PR professional. I've been most of my life. So, that's like, oops, yippee, yippee. I'm getting this story, which was kind of cool. Um, but he was looking for a lawnmower and he found me instead.
That's an awesome
So,
story. I love this because you're
yeah.
right. There is this stigma that once you pass 40 or 45, love is past for you. And as someone who's 49, I love seeing examples that it is possible no matter what, as long as we, as you say, get out of our own way. So I know what it means when I say I'm in my own way. What does it mean when you say that you got in your own way?
Well, I teach that I believe manifesting is a three-part process. The first part is really knowing what you want. And when I say really knowing what you want, one of my stories is I was working for a very large Fortune 10 company, a name you would know, but I won't share it. And anyway, I had tried for a couple of 2 or 3 years to get a promotion, and I worked my tail end off trying to make that happen, and it wouldn't happen until it dawned on me one day I don't want to work here at all anymore. My days of enjoying this job are done. I was getting phone calls at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, because media works on a 24-hour cycle, and that's what I did was manage media. And I don't want to do this anymore. And as soon as I came to that realization and released the need to be there at all, the within a week, we got an email in my department that said there will be layoffs after Christmas. If you want to volunteer, you know, please raise your hand. And so I talked to my then fiance, who was almost my husband, and he said, "Yeah, sure, why don't you go ahead and leave?" So I got a pretty good severance package and walked away. I still have friends there. I've done some contract work for them. It's a, it's a good company. It was just the situation, it wasn't working for me anymore. So, one way that you can get in your own way is, are you sure that you're doing what you want to do? Are you becoming a doctor because you really love wanting to be a doctor and you want to help people, or is that your mother's dream for you?
Mhm.
Or, are you in law school just because you thought that was a good money making career? Nothing wrong with that, but if that's not why you want to be there, then maybe that isn't the place for you. So that's one way to get in your own way. The second part of manifesting is the bigger umbrella of getting out of your own way. And what that looks like is, maybe you say you want to get married, and then when your inner guidance tells you, which happened to me as I was kind of completing my year end manifesting goals and desires and gratitudes and all of that. I do a year end process every year. And a voice that was like right here said, "Put an ad on Craigslist." And I said, "Are you crazy? Do you know what's on Craigslist?" And the voice said, "Just do it." And I said, "Okay." So I did it. Now, if I had ignored that voice and went with the logic, which the logic would tell you that's probably not the best place to find a really good man, but the voice kept telling me to do it. So I did it and it worked out really well for me. So ignoring your voice would be a way to get out of your own way. Or maybe you want to get married, but you keep dating a guy who doesn't want to get married, or you date the ones who really aren't in the same place in life that you are, even though, or you don't know what you're even looking for. That could be part of it, is you're not really sure what you want. So, depending on the other things, getting out of your own way could look like, um, you really don't know. These are probably subconscious beliefs in many cases, but you have quite a few negative tapes running through your head, like, "This is so hard. I can't do this." It's perfectly normal for people to have those thoughts, and there's no shame or blame in it, but you don't have to believe them all. Just because they're in your head, you don't have to
Right.
believe them. You can tell them to shut up and go away. It's okay to do that. So knowing what your thoughts and your subconscious beliefs are very helpful, and usually those come out in words like, "It's so hard. I can't do this. Nobody can get married over the age of 40. That doesn't ever happen."
Mhm.
Things like that. So some of the things that you tell yourself. So we do a lot of work within my community to discover what those beliefs are and work through them. A- And we do it in a gentle, easy, little bit at a time, because it's pretty hard to make a giant leap from one place to the
Mhm.
next
Mhm.
very quickly. Um, and then the last part of manifesting, the last stage, is preparing to receive. And to me, that's like, are you ready to get what you have? If, for instance, you're looking for a spouse or a significant other, um, is your home set up for that? Do you have room in your closet? Is there room
Mhm.
for him to put some of his clothes, or her? Um, is the house, reasonably tidy and organized that somebody else would feel comfortable coming into your space? Um, I used to set my kitchen table with two sets of dishes all the time. It just stayed like that, because that was a reminder to me that
Mhm.
someday there's going to be two of us at this table. So I did a lot of that kind of thing. So receiving might be it might also be if you wanna manifest a trip, are you ready to take it? If it
Mhm.
fell into your lap, I mean, you wanna be able to do that. Another one of my favorite stories was, we hadn't been married very long, about 4 months. This was 2019, and, it was right before Duchess Meghan was having little Archie, and so all of the world's media was in Windsor, and they were doing news stories about, baby Sussex is about to be born. And I was watching the news just absolutely wistful. I adore London. I want to go as often as I can. And to myself, I was thinking, we missed Windsor. We were going to go to Windsor and we never got the chance last time we went. I really want to go to Windsor. That would be so fun. I miss London. And then I just turned my thoughts to another direction and got busy doing something. And I kid you not, 20 minutes later, my husband came in the door and he said, the company's sending me someplace for a business trip. I thought you may want to go. And I said, really, where's that? And he said, Windsor.
Of course. Of course. I love that.
I said, all right, let's go. So, I mean, nothing could have kept me from that trip at that particular time. So that's the part of, are you ready to receive it? Would you know it if it was there? Are
Mhm.
you prepared to accept these major gifts, even if they kind of don't look like what you're expecting them to look like? Because
Right.
sometimes that happens. It may come in a slightly different package, but
Mhm.
you just have to be ready to realize, like, oh my gosh, I did that. How cool is that?
Yeah. And I think that, there's a few things that you said that I want to just highlight. Knowing what you want, if you're not clear about what you want, it's like sending the order back at a restaurant. I want the grilled cheese. No, I want the ravioli. No, I want the salad. It's very confusing. And so sometimes when we don't know what we want, that might be the very first sticking place for us when we're creating the lives that we love. And
Absolutely, it sure is.
what you said about listening to your voice, listening to your intuition, your inner knowing, that is so big because we all get those little whispers
Hmm.
and we have a choice every single time. Do we want to listen? Do we want to not listen? And when we have those things on repeat and we just keep hearing them or keep thinking them, that really is guidance. It
Hmm.
really is. And I love what you said about just listening to it, even though it doesn't make sense to the logical world. Um, I I don't know why I'm feeling called to tell you this story today because it's not actually public knowledge, but I just had this whisper, I have to resign. I have to resign. I have to resign. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I had 3 times that I could have backed out of that, 3 different opportunities to not push the send and I still went through with it. And my story is still unfolding, but that was an example of I'm getting this guidance that this is what has to happen, even though logic does not support that.
And so shall it be,
And
or
so
something
shall
even
it be.
better.
Yes, exactly. And so when you were talking about negative self talk, that wasn't quite what you said, but I was thinking about not only the way we talk to ourselves, but the way we talk about our situations. We
Hmm.
speak our worlds into existence.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And so, how would you tell somebody if you hear them and they're in their speaking, they're like, "Well, this is hard," or "This is not going to happen for me." What would you say to them?
Well, what I say and what I have said is I listen to specifically what they're saying, and one common way of a little bit of self-sabotage is subconsciously saying what you don't want all of the time.
Mhm.
Like this goes back to your order at the restaurant. If you told the server, I don't want the ravioli, okay, well, what do you want? I don't want the turkey. Okay, well, what do you want? I don't want a burger. Okay, what do you want? And I kind of see like the powers that be sometimes like, seriously, quit telling me what you don't want. Tell me
Just
what
tell
you do
me.
want. Just tell me. So I will gently kind of, press them a little bit when they say, I don't want to fail. Then what do you want? Well, I don't want to be embarrassed. Okay, then what do you want? We kind of
Mhm.
go through that
Mhm.
exercise over and over, and eventually people get it and they start seeing where they're doing that to themselves. It's a habit that takes a little bit of work. The thing is none of us should feel any shame or blame for the negative self-talk that we do to ourselves. And the
Mhm.
reason for that is that's the way your brain evolved. Your brain evolved at a time when you had to be on super alert for almost anything that could go wrong because
Right.
that puma could have you for lunch.
Mhm.
And you could eat a mushroom that maybe it makes you feel absolutely great and maybe it kills you instantly. So there were a
Right.
lot of risks in the world when the brain was evolving, and that's the way it evolved. And it hasn't evolved, that part of it hasn't evolved a whole heck of a lot beyond. So no shame, no blame if you catch yourself doing those kinds of things. Be gentle and kind to yourself like you might be to a child. You
Mhm.
know, okay, that's wonderful, but we don't have to believe that. Why don't we try to find
Right.
another belief? So that may be some of it. And sometimes I might, um, if somebody says it's so hard, let's dig under that. What is so hard? What's the
Mhm.
belief that's hard? Maybe maybe what you need is a mentor. Maybe you need a little bit of help. Maybe
Mhm.
you need a little bit of research. Maybe you need a little bit of somebody to just tell you you're pretty great.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to tell yourself you're pretty great.
Mhm.
Like it's listening to them and hearing what it is that's, that's tripping them up in that particular way.
Mhm.
So, there are a lot of ways to get around it. It's just hearing what that native belief is, pointing it out, and as I said before, it isn't always easy to change your Eeyore brain, "I'm so dumb,"
Mhm.
to, "Gosh, I'm the smartest person on the planet," immediately. Sometimes it takes you have to move up the ladder a little bit. Maybe I'm not always so dumb, may be the first step. If you get to where you can believe that, then maybe you can move up to the next step, the step that's like, only occasionally I'm dumb. And then you can work up a little step from that to sometimes I'm pretty smart. And, you just kind of
Mhm.
keep working your way up the scale. Sometimes you get a flash of brilliance like Paul on the road to Damascus out of the Bible, where just all of a sudden you're blinded by the light and you have a different belief system. But I'd say more often it's pretty common that you just kind of have to work yourself up the ladder.
I always say to people, you may not be able to choose your first thought, but you can choose the thoughts that come after that. And
Yeah,
so by replacing that negative first thought, then you can start to shift that energy because you don't have to believe everything you think. Just like you were saying
right,
at the beginning,
right,
they're not all
right. You don't.
facts.
No, no. In fact, many of them are not. Yeah.
Mhm. When you were talking about getting ready to receive, and then you told the story about your husband coming home with the trip and how you had really wanted to go to Windsor. One of the things I heard you say was that would be so fun. And
Hmm.
I feel like that is gold right there. Every
Yeah.
time we get that little instinct, that would be so fun. Or
Yeah.
what would be so fun right now? I feel like that's a really cool rabbit hole to jump in.
I love having fun. Fun is something that really helps my mental mindset. In fact, I have a journal that a planner in the journal I write in every day, and I have a habit tracker, and one of them is, did I have fun today?
Mm,
And some days are obviously higher levels of fun than others, but
mhm.
did I have fun? This is fun. I'm having fun right now, so this counts.
Me too.
I get to check that off. So I think fun is not only necessary for people to deal with the more unpleasant things in life, but it's also the brain learns much faster when you're having fun. If you're
Mhm.
trying to change your habits, you're trying to reroute your thinking. If you're doing it through having a good time, you will do it much, much faster. It imprints on the brain
Mhm.
much faster.
Absolutely. And there's boatloads of brain research and educational research to support that idea that we learn through fun,
Yes.
gamification, or I mean that's why we have all this gamification in apps and in the the Duolingo and the other like the learning apps. That wasn't even the one that I downloaded. I can't remember what the name of the one I downloaded was, but it was so fun because I felt like, oh, I'm winning just a little bit by practicing this
Uh-huh.
language.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to learn anything new is have fun while doing it.
Mhm. So one of the things that I've been talking about a lot recently, and it's coming up for people, is being willing to receive. And you
Mhm.
talked about being ready to receive, and I feel like it's very much the same kind of a thought process. And in
Mhm.
our very masculine driven culture, masculine being the energy, like the masculine energy,
Right.
not masculine people,
Right.
there's a lot of attention paid to doing
Mhm.
more and achieving and that kind of thing. And the feminine energy is a lot more about being and receptivity
Mhm.
and being willing to allow.
Exactly.
And I find that that piece is tricky for people.
It is. It is tricky. It sounds so easy and so simple. I tell people all the time manifestation is actually simple, but it isn't always easy, which is a big cliche, but it's true. Um, you know, going back to just dating as an example, if you have it in your mind that you want this 6'4" muscle guy and he does this and that and the other, and you've got a particular type. But if your type hasn't been working out, is there anything wrong with going out with a guy who may be a little bit shorter than what you put your order in for?
Mhm.
Or maybe he's a little shyer than what you think you need. Sometimes, those powers that be know a little bit more about what works with us than we do.
Mhm.
And it's being willing to um, play around a little bit with you know, this or something better. Like maybe this is the something
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
So, being able to step out in a little bit of, I call it research, research and experimentation. Like, what does it hurt to have coffee with one person that doesn't
Mhm.
check off your list or isn't your type? It doesn't hurt
Right.
a thing. I mean, obviously, you don't want to go for the clowns. There are clowns out there of both genders, and I get it, of all genders. Um, and I probably went out with half of them at one time or another. but, but, um, but anyway, yeah. I mean, it's stretching out, researching a little bit, looking at it without the energy of it's all positive or all negative, just
Mhm.
being able to experiment. If you
Yes.
have like a little bit of a scientist mindset instead of a judge,
Mhm.
then that might be very helpful for you.
I love that. And I think that that can be across the board, not just in the topic of dating, but being
Oh, yeah,
willing to
yeah.
allow and be curious. And I think back to some of the things that have happened in my life, and I can't think of one that looked exactly the way I thought it was going to look. And it was always better than what I thought. But if you would have asked me to predict it, even a month before it all unfolded, it would not have looked the way that it looked.
Exactly. That's that's the thing is you have to be willing for things to change a little bit from what you want,
Mhm.
or what you think you want, because it could be better than what you want. But you have to be open to it, and you have to like step your little toe in the little pond to see if it's a good fit for you or not. There's courage in that, and it's
Mhm.
amazing when it works out.
It's awesome. And you're right, there's courage. There's courage in being willing to be uncomfortable, in like trying something new. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of courage just in saying, this is the thing I want.
Right.
Even that very first step
Absolutely.
takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that part of the whole process.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So cool. And so when you were talking about being willing to look at things a little bit differently, being willing to accept, be willing, the word that came to my mind was play.
Mhm.
Be willing to play with it a little bit. Be willing to be like, oh, what would it be like if we went for coffee? What would it be like if I applied for that job? What would,
Right. Exactly. I have a good friend, one of my best friends, as a matter of fact. Years ago, she lived in San Diego and she had a job offer in San Francisco. And she was talking about how, well, all the things that could go wrong by moving to San Francisco. And she's right, things could have gone wrong. But I said, yeah, but what if that's where you meet the great love of your life? Maybe that's the point of going to San Francisco.
Mm.
Maybe the job will lead you to something else that's even better. It turned out that was exactly right. She did meet her husband there, had 3 kids, was in the job for a while. Now she's a librarian at a school. She loves it. So, it was just, yeah, you've got all these reasons why it won't work. What if there are a couple of reasons why it will?
Mhm.
So, anyway,
I
yeah.
love that. What if there are a couple of reasons why it will?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
amazing. I think that that is just, it's so juicy because we are conditioned to think about all the reasons something won't work. When what would it be like if it did?
Yeah.
Sometimes that question can change it all.
Yeah, and that's not to minimize the fact that it's a little scary to move across the state. It's a hassle. I mean, moving, you can manifest the best movers in the world, and it's still a little unnerving to move, or
Mhm.
maybe a lot unnerving to
Yeah.
move.
Yeah.
I don't move easily or well. I'll stay in a place for a lot longer than I should just because I hate moving. But so not minimizing any of that, but
Mhm.
there's always a possibility of something working out on the other side too, and working out,
Yes.
like, beyond your wildest dreams.
Yes, for sure. And for me, I always feel like, the monkey bars when we were kids, and you had to hold on to one monkey bar and then you had to swing with your body weight and use that kind of that force and that energy to get to the next thing. But if you hung
Uh-huh.
on too tight to the first one, then you didn't have the whole momentum of your body to make
Yeah.
the move. And so there's a little bit of letting go that happens in
Mhm.
these experiences, and that is exhilarating, and it's also the thing that people resist the most is that letting
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Well, and again, going back to the way their primal brain developed, you have to give yourself a little bit of grace if you're hanging on tightly for that reason that the primal brain is just yelling, "Danger, danger, danger," all the
Yes.
way to you. And so that's when you have to kind of become a more advanced human with a little bit more cognitive abilities to say, really, now let's be reasonable. What is the danger here? Is it
Mhm.
reasonable? Or am I just, turning into one of my ancestors and
Right.
worrying too much? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is such a great question. So for me, I start to get ready to make that shift into the thing I know I need to move forward to and let go of the thing I'm moving away to. And then it takes me a long time to think about. And long might be 2 days or it might be 2 months. It varies sometimes, but I find that it always has some things in common in that I am thinking about doing that thing a lot.
Hmm.
And I use that as information to, okay, there's something here. There's a curiosity that would be
Hmm.
interesting just to follow the curiosity. Do you feel like that is a common way to approach it, or are there other ways that people get those little intuitive nudges?
I think that's common and that's very useful. If you wanted to take it up a little bit a notch, that is to absolutely wallow in what you want. just wallow in it. I mean, wallow is a word we don't usually associate as being a positive word, but if you want to take off to London, then sit with that desire for a little bit. Think about it. What would you do when you're there? Would you go to the London Eye? Would you go to the Tower? Would you go walk the streets? What kind of food would you like to experience? You know, um, if you want to go to Paris, you think about Paris and what all you would do there. Same with, a mate, if you're looking for a mate to be able to kind of wallow in the deliciousness of desiring it,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is a completely different feeling from hating the fact that you don't have it.
Yes.
Hating that you don't have it doesn't get you any closer. And the reason these negative emotions like that, the subconscious ones especially, are so tricky is because, especially if they're subconscious, they end up driving your bus,
Mhm. Yeah, they
your
do.
whole mental bus, and you won't even realize why you do silly things. You just and that's the mental bus that they're driving. And so by at least bringing these subconscious beliefs to the forefront, you can at least go, "Oh, that's why I didn't go on that date. Had
Mhm.
nothing to do with him. It had to
Right.
do with the fact that I was scared I was going out with another jerk." And,
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, and once you get conscious with those beliefs, then you can decide maybe the next person really isn't a good person for you to meet. Maybe it is a waste of your time. But you're thinking with a conscious open mind, not with one that's rooted in fear or trauma or something like that.
Mhm.
So, it's very important to find those and make them conscious.
I love that. And 2 things stood out to me. One is not controlling the how, like not worrying about how am I going to get to London? How am I going to get to Paris? When's it going to happen? How am I going to pay for it? That's not what you said. What you said was
Mm-mm.
really feel the feelings, the experiences. What will it be like to feel that you're doing those things?
I'll tell you another quick manifestation story. Um, at the end of, uh, no, in May of 2017, I was in a year-long women's program, and we finished in Paris. And one of the greatest experiences of my life was 100 of us did a flash mob in front of on the Trocadero in front of the Eiffel Tower. It was a blast. It was so much fun. Um, but anyway, some of us took some petals and threw petals into the Seine with our wishes and desires that we wanted to. And one of mine was that I would come back to Paris with my great love. Now, I
Mm,
didn't have a great love at that time. I didn't know any. I didn't even have a thing for, Brad Pitt or anything. It was just like, there's just nobody in my life right now. And so, and then at the end of that year, 2017, when I was doing my end of year work, um, in my planner, I had a prompt to write a short story of your next desire. And so I wrote a 2-paragraph little story about how I'm in Paris and I'm at this hotel because it was the only hotel I knew, and I can smell the bread baking, and my great love is bringing me coffee. And here I am writing by the window, and blah blah blah. So I really got into all the senses, and wrote this cute little short story. And sort of forgot about it, which I think is a very good part of manifesting. Is when you put your desire, just kind of put it out in the wind and
mhm,
forget about it.
mhm.
And anyway, fast forward to 2018, I met my husband, and who was going to be my husband, in March. In September, we got engaged, and my birthday's in September, so he took me on a trip to Europe, and I was the one that made all the plans. And I made the plan in Paris to stay at this one hotel that looked kind of cool. And I thought that was going to be great. When we got there, the hotel was terrible. So I called hotels.com and got that canceled. And the only other hotel I knew was the one I had stayed in the previous year, Hotel Beauchamp. And so we got the very last room there. And it wasn't until I got home and was perusing my desires from that year that I returned to Paris with my great love. Not only that, I was staying in this same exact hotel
Mm,
that I had visualized, and that wasn't even the plan. It wasn't the plan to stay there, but that's where we ended up staying. So that was love Paris. It's a toss-up between Paris and London every time, but anyway, I love Paris, and I just kind of wallowed in the desire of being
mhm.
there, and it's such a lover's town that you can't help but want to be there with your great love. You can have fun with 100 girlfriends, but you really wanna be there with your great love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is a beautiful story. And so
Thank
you
you.
said the word visualization, and I wanted to really pull that out and highlight it because so many times we spend our lives rehearsing the things we don't want instead
Right.
of actually rehearsing the things we do want, which is called visualizing. And
Yes.
so engaging those senses is such a beautiful way to do that. What will you smell? What will you see? What will you hear?
Yes, engaging all of those senses is so important for me because, not everybody's visual sense is their strongest sense. Mine is tactile. I'm a very tactile person. I can touch things, feel things, how my clothes feel. A lot of that means a lot to me, and it won't to somebody else.
Mhm,
My mother has perfect pitch, so what things sound like is her most important sense. But running everything through all of the senses, and if you get a chance to write it, that's even better. Just write
mhm.
it as some kind of short story. Nobody has to read it, so it doesn't matter how well it's written or not, but you can write it, make it a little juicy. Making stuff juicy really helps a lot, I think.
I think so too. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. And you actually have a free gift for the Waves of Joy audience
I
where
do.
they can get some of this goodness. Do you want to talk about that?
I do. I have on my website, I have a free vision board. And that is at dianebrandonmoody.com. On the front page, you'll see the vision board. If you sign up for emails, then you'll get that. But beyond that, I have another special one for this audience, and that is dianebrandonmoody.com/prime your mind. What that is a list of 10 ways that you can kind of prime your mind toward manifesting. And it's got some great suggestions if you're a little down that day or feeling like X is never going to make it. I've been trying to get X for years and it's not here. This is a place to kind of make your mind a little more receptive to magic happening. So
Love
both of
that.
those are available for your audience, and I hope they do it because I think they're kind of fun. I think both of them are. The vision board is it's artistic. It's one page. You can make it simple and write everything down in just a pen, or you can glitter and glue and colored markers and paint and just go to town if that's what you prefer to do, because either way, it's fun.
That's amazing. And where can people find you? I mean, obviously your website, dianebrandonmoody.com. And are
Hmm.
you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at manifestation_simplification. I do answer DMs as many as I can get to, so I will answer those if they have questions, or they can go to my website. Either way, those are great channels to find me.
Amazing. So I have 5 just kind of fun rapid fire questions. Maybe not rapid. I don't know. We'll see how they go. So the first one is what is in your morning mug?
Usually coffee. My I went to, had to take a lab and a doctor's lab, and they said I have to be off caffeine for a week. So let me tell you, this week it ain't coffee, and I'm very sad about that. So I've been trying cacao and trying that, but or herb tea, but usually I am a coffee girl from yeah, I love coffee.
Well, here's hoping you get your coffee back soon.
Thank you. I will be much happier.
Is there a song that you love that just kind of makes everything all right when you hear it?
Oh gosh, there are so many. Justin Timberlake's Just Dance, 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 Dance. That was the one we did in Paris that we did a flash mob to. So every time I hear that song, even if it's, at Kroger's, I can't I can't help but go right back into that routine. So I love that song, but there are many, and I actually have a playlist on Spotify under my name that's just for manifesting. So people can check that out
Awesome.
too.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm sure I'm going to get to that for sure. Who inspires you?
Wow, there are so many people that inspire me. Dr. Maya Angelou is someone that I just loved listening to. Every time she spoke, she was so elegant and just dripping with special. She was just absolutely special, but,
Mhm.
um, I could probably go by a list of 100 people, but I would say Dr. Maya Angelou right now.
I love her. She's she's incredible. My daughter's name is Maya and it's spelled differently, but it was definitely in my mind when I named her that Maya Angelou was so impactful.
I have Phenomenal Woman up on my wall, so it's something
Oh,
I reminds me when I need that reminder.
I love that. That's beautiful. Do you listen to podcasts? Is there one that you're listening to that you like?
Well, I listened to yours several times last week. That's not a
Fantastic.
suck up. I did. I was, we had a big flood here in the Dallas Fort Worth area last Monday, and I happened to be out in it, and I was listening to yours in the middle of the flood. But I also listened to Amy Porterfield on
Mhm,
marketing, which I think
mhm,
is very helpful. Corinne Crabtree, who does business as well as weight loss.
mhm.
And those are the ones I listen to most often, I think. Yeah.
I love all of those. Well, I mean, I like my own, of course, but I love Amy Porterfield and Corinne Crabtree. She's
She's
just
a bomb.
fire. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you feel like you're getting spanked by her, but in a good way.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, exactly. Love her.
Yeah.
So if you need to find joy and you're maybe feeling low or dark or sad or mad, what do you do to flip the switch and access joy quickly?
Dance. Dance will do it for me. In this home office here, I have a wide open floor that I can just kind of dance. I like to, depending on what the issue is, I can do a very sad dance or a very mad dance. Like sometimes I just need to punch air
Mhm, mhm,
for a song or two, and then I can go into a song that I love or one that means something to me or,
mhm.
you know, that's lovely or sexy or something like that. And then I can do that and I'll be back to normal or even better in no time.
I like to do that too. I call it dance it out parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been a real
Thank
pleasure.
you. I have enjoyed myself so much. Thank you so much. And I hope to see more of you. And I'll definitely be listening to more of you.
Oh, thank you. I hope to see more of you too. Thank you so much for being
Good.
here. Isn't she incredible? So here are the main takeaways. Manifesting is aligning your thoughts to what you want instead of what you don't want. Manifesting is a three-part process. Number one, know what you want. Number two, get out of your own way. And number three, be willing to receive. So be sure that you say what it is that you really, really want so that it's not like sending that order back to the kitchen. Follow your intuitive nudges. When you get those repeating thoughts, that is actually guidance. And then prepare to receive the thing that it is that you really want. Set the table for one more person. Clear out some space in the closet. Research trip ideas. Speaking of trips, make sure that you check out the link in the show notes for information on the Oregon Coast Retreat held September 28, 29, and 30 of 2022 at brendawinkle.com/retreat.